Hello, my name is Chris Hinsberger, and together with my wife Val, we own 15 acres of very cool property here that are known to people locally and across the world as the Bonnechere Caves. And right now, I'm deep down inside the Bonnechere Caves. It's October 30th. We are closed for the season. Our caves are in the process of being flooded for the winter, and when our caves are flooded, 2/3 of the passageways that you visit in the summertime will be underwater. The reason we do that, with the water in our cave, the cave is sealed off from the outside, and when the cave is sealed off from the cold winter air outside during the winter months, it means that the cave walls will not freeze. As we learn in school, bits of water in cracks in stone, when that freezes, that expands and causes erosion. So in order for these caves to be preserved, we have to flood them every winter. Now, I will be eventually talking about bats. We'll get to see some bats today, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about this environment and how it got here so that it now today is a suitable place in the year 2011 for bats to come and hibernate. We're standing in a limestone bed. All the rock around us is limestone. For those of you that have visited the Bonnechere Caves, you know the story about the stone, how this limestone, this sedimentary rock, was being formed in layers of mud at the bottom of a sea, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 million years ago. That was a period known as the Ordovician time period. That was back before the evolution of the fish, before dinosaurs roamed this land. Dinosaurs lived 60 to 100 million years ago. All of the fossils or the creatures we find embedded in our stone walls are invertebrates. Different creatures with shells, because at this time no creature lived having a backbone, or vertebrates. There were no vertebrates. This was the age of the invertebrates. Now, for most of this life of this bed of limestone, it lay here solid. No holes, no cracks. Until recently, though, and when I say recently, I'm talking about the last 12 or 13,000 years. That's when the glaciers that covered most of Canada melted away from this area. And once that melting ice was gone, the land was exposed. An arm of the Atlantic Ocean was here for a period of time because of the weight of the ice had depressed the land so much that part of the Atlantic Ocean could be up here. Now, over the years, that land has rebounded. As the land rebounded, the Atlantic Ocean flowed off to be very eastward where it is today. And that water that eventually formed the Bonnechere River got down into cracks in the stone. And as the water flowed through the cracks, the water very slowly dissolved away the stone walls till we're standing in a space wide enough that I'm standing in right now that people can walk through. We can put boardwalk and lights in, and we have a tourist attraction. Now, when the bats fly in here in the winter, and I say in the winter, I should be more specific, they start to fly in the fall. We hardly see bats all summer long because they prefer to be somewhere else. When the bats fly in here, they don't fly around and say, wow, Ordovician limestone, caves, date back 12 or 13,000 years, practically brand new caves, but what a beautiful cave system. No, the bats don't say that. The bats say to themselves, or somehow say to themselves, because we learn that animals communicate with each other, so if they can communicate to each other, they have to communicate with themselves. They say, do I want to hibernate someplace where it gets very cold, close to freezing? Or do I want to hibernate in a cave that's undisturbed, no people walking through all winter long, warm, 8 to 10 degrees Celsius our cave is during the winter months, makes it a very good place for the bats to come and hibernate. There are 8 different species of bats in Ontario. We have people come in from the Ministry of Natural Resources to study the bats, to band them, to track their movement, and that's what we do as a business, to be involved with a public service agency like the Ministry of Natural Resources, so we can get to know more about these creatures that are a very valuable part of our ecosystem. So the ministry comes in and studies bats, and what's cool is they have this radar microphone gun that they point, and it's connected to their computer, and when they hear the sounds of the bats, their echolocation system, the sounds they give off, that will tell you what kind of bat that they're listening to. And what the ministry folks have found out is that of the 8 different bats found in Ontario, over the last 3 years of coming here to study the bats and tracking them, that we have found all 8 species. And when I say find, that means we haven't looked directly at them, because at night with the echolocation radar microphone gun, it's identified that 8 different species of bats have been discovered here at the Bonnechere Caves. The most common bat we get are the small brown bats. They will come in by the dozens, the hundreds, to hibernate in our cave. Now, some myths about bats. People say they're blind. No, bats can see. They don't use their eyes, though, however, to hunt for mosquitoes and black flies at night. They use an echolocation system. And bats, well, they eat over half their own body weight in bugs every night. And I don't know about you guys if you like bugs. I don't like bugs. We have to deal with them here in this part of Ontario. They're an important part of our ecosystem, don't get me wrong. However, the bats flying around will eat half their own body weight or more in bugs every night. And that, someone did the math on that, that's 1,200 mosquitoes. Cool creature that can eat 1,200 mosquitoes every night. We should have more bats around. Some other myths. Do bats get in your hair? No. Now, I'm not saying if someone was walking through the Bonnechere Caves with a bushy head of hair and a bat was flying through, that a bat would not get tangled in your hair, but I think your hair is the last place a bat wants to be. So do bats get tangled in your hair? Yes, they could. Do they purposely fly towards people's hair to get tangled in their hair? No. And I've been walking through these caves for 20 years of my adult life, 10 years of my young life. 30 years I've been walking through these caves. I've had bats flying all around me. None have got caught in my hair. And there was a time when I did have more hair in my head than this. So, other things about bats. Do bats suck your blood? No. If you're a mosquito, yeah, they don't necessarily suck your blood. I think they eat you all at once, blood included. So I'm going to grab the camera here. We're going to take a walk into the cave, into the part of the cave where the bats like to hang out. And they like to hang out in the middle of our cave. And well, you know what? I'm going to grab the camera and we're going to walk there. And we're going to walk through some dark. So be patient and we will eventually get to where the bats are. And those of you that have been to the caves before, you know that we do talk about the bats and there's lots of neat things to do. We're walking past the Spelunker's Tunnel, and that's that small tunnel that will let people explore and walk down by themselves. But we'll just move away from here and walk down into the cave, to the part of the cave that we call the Bat Tunnel. And we'll take a look at some of our friends that are hanging up here in the wall. I may need to use a flashlight in some cases to get a better look at these guys. But you're going to see sometimes the bats will hang in our cave just individually. Some of the bats like to hang in groups or clumps. And you can see right now, we have probably well over 200 bats in our cave. And some of them will hang in clumps, very visible. And some of them will get themselves jammed right up into the cracks. So that they can hardly be seen. And again, I mentioned these are the small brown bats. They will start coming here in September. And we do have guided tours until Thanksgiving weekend, so it is possible to come and visit the caves and see these bats. But during the winter months, we lock up the cave, we let it flood, and the bats have the place all to themselves. What will happen in April is the days start getting longer, the weather starts getting nicer, and the bats will sense that. And by the end of April, they're all gone. By the time we're open to the public, the long weekend in May, the bats are all gone, and we hardly see them all summer long. We like to talk about the bats here, because the bats are an important part of our ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, they eat a lot of black flies and mosquitoes. So that's pretty cool. But I gotta tell you, the bats have had a bad rap over the years because we use them to scare people at Halloween, and I'm gonna suggest that, you know, let's really give the bats a break. You know, I understand pumpkins and ghosts and stuff at Halloween, but the bats, I think, have been used inappropriately. I don't want to go off on a big tangent about this, but let's talk more about the cool things bats do. And yes, as one lady the other day on a tour said, "Oh my God, those bats are ugly." And my comment to her was, what do you think bats are saying when they look down at us? Do you think they're saying, "Wow, are people ever nice looking?" Or do the bats think that we're a little bit funny looking? I'd have to think that bats think that we're a little bit funny looking too. So there's a little bit about the bats at the Bonnechere Caves. And I hope that this will help you understand what we do here at the Bonnechere Caves. I hope it will help you understand our attitude towards bats here at the Bonnechere Caves and understand a little bit about us and how we like to work with people and how we like to share information here, because the more we can share this property, the more people are going to understand about the beauty of Mother Nature. And that's one of our goals. So thanks for watching my video.